Hello, friends. Today, I'm going to immerse you in a world we all know but rarely talk about openly, the world of hospital administration. Get ready for a dose of dark humor because I'm going to share an excerpt from my new book with you, The Masks in the Legal Counsel's Office. After the dismissal of our colleague, the one everyone supposedly got along with so well, as long as he was doing his job and serving as their pillar of support during uncertain work assignments, life in the administration fell silent for a short while. But silence rarely lasts long in hospital corridors. That morning, the Chief Legal Counsel's office, a territory where boring documents and even more boring procedures were usually discussed, was filled with unusual excitement. The chief legal counsel, Mrs. Squeakwell, was an aging, scrawny grey mouse with sharp, fox-like eyes who possessed the supernatural talent of becoming invisible the moment an angry citizen or an urgent task appeared in the hallway. She spent her days eavesdropping from behind her files and hiding under the table of the law. Mrs. Blankstall from Human Resources, a large clumsy mare, stomped heavily and slowly into the room. She moved at the speed of an ice age, hiding her complete professional incompetence behind an air of authority, and was ready to gallop off at the slightest insane order from the boss, just so long as she wasn't kicked out of her warm trough. The expression on her face meant only one thing. This is an emergency, and I have absolutely no idea what to do. Regarding the request from our former colleague, Mrs. Blankstall began in that thin, smug tone bureaucrats adopt when speaking of a fallen comrade. He wants a letter of recommendation. Lawyer Mouse pricked up her ears, looked around fearfully to see if her former colleague was still nearby, and read the document for the third time, a habit from her past that simply bought her time to figure out how to slip away. "Well, tell Mr. Proudmane to write it for him," she murmured in her high-pitched voice, shrinking back in her chair. She suggested it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. In fact, this striking naturalness perfectly masked the fact that the deputy director, Mr. Proudmane, was the biggest hypocrite in the entire administration and, until recently, the best friend of the person who had been fired. Proudmane was a pure-blood Leo, at least according to his horoscope and his own delusions, and loved to strut his signature, albeit slightly worn, mane through the hallways, flaunting his power, expensive perfumes, and financial resources of unclear origin. Rumors circulated in the administrative incubator that his Leo self-confidence actually rested on his marriage. He lived in his wife's house, and she held a truly high-ranking position with a personal driver. Proudmane himself had until recently been using his company car for family vacations, and he recently acquired a shiny, used Mercedes. The purchase of the German car strangely coincided with the renovation of one of the hospital wards, a contract won by a company very close to him. This king of pretense did absolutely nothing at the hospital. He was constantly at urgent outside meetings that brought no improvements for the patients or the hospital, but made him look important. And while he was negotiating his personal kickbacks, he was secretly scheming to take the top director's seat. "Well, that's like me telling myself," Mrs. Blankstall snorted indignantly, stomping her hoof heavily on the floor with an irritation that made it unclear whether it was directed at the deputy director, her colleague, or life in general. "All right then," the lawyer relented. "Shall we go see Director Dr. Woollyheart and discuss this?" "Why should we go in?" Mrs. Blankstall asked, looking frightened. The thought of having to make a decision in front of the big boss made her tremble, despite her imposing height. The lawyer exhaled deeply, the kind of sigh that government employees use to maintain their mental health. "Well, what's the big deal? It's the same as anything else." After a brief pause, she added, "Look, search online. There are plenty of examples. Take a look at one." After a surprisingly quick, by her standards, search online, Mrs. Blankstall returned to the office, striding in heavily and triumphantly. "Take a look at the recommendation, please. I personally refrained from saying anything flattering. Since we got rid of him, there's no way I can write anything overly positive." "Yes," the lawyer agreed, "because it won't hold up anyway." "Well, give it to Mr. Proudmane to take a look at." The head of Human Resources seemed to have grown seriously disillusioned with both her fate and her profession. Do you know what was written in the examples she listed, as if she were talking about fantastical creatures that no one has ever seen, but everyone quotes? Excellent performance, outstanding qualities. Well, he's going to use that in court, the lawyer reminded her. The court will rule on legality, but our decision is based on expediency, with the goal of minimizing financial damage to the company. So write effective performance, under no circumstances. Excellent. Effective sounds dry and doesn't commit us to anything. Ooh, let's go get some coffee, said Miss Squeakwell. After a full hour of hard work, during which documents were heroically pored over, expert sighs were uttered, and pens were waved about, it was clear that the critical moment for a break had arrived. And what better time to discuss the recommendation, or rather the former colleague himself, than over coffee? After all, difficult conversations require caffeine and, above all, nicotine to keep us going, especially before tackling the grueling part of the rest of the workday, feigning busyness. And so, amid piles of files, legal jargon, and well-honed bureaucratic irony, the recommendation was born neither flattering nor malicious, just effective enough to get by. Just like everything else in our cozy administrative home. So, what do you think? Does this feeling sound familiar? Have you ever encountered similar situations where logic gives way to, let's call them, unique management decisions? Let me know in the comments. My goal with this clip isn't just to make you laugh, but to get you to think about the contrast between genuine care for people and the sometimes absurd reality we live in. If this excerpt has piqued your interest, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. Your opinion matters to me. Stay tuned for more excerpts and information about the book coming soon. See you next time.